So we'd love to know what you think about that. 657-464-7609, or you can send an email to idoubtit@dollemore.com. Now we're going to transition to something that happened that yesterday, that illustrates the state of the Republican Party.
It really does.
And it was, of course, presidential candidate Nikki Haley, former governor of South Carolina, Nikki Haley, who was asked what is a very simple question. And the question is, what caused the Civil War? And I want you to hear how she struggles to answer what is, again, a very basic question.
Please, what was the cause of the United States Civil War?
Well, don't come with an easy question or anything. I mean, I think the cause of the Civil War was basically how government was going to run, the freedoms and what people could and couldn't do. What do you think the cause of the Civil War was? I'm sorry?
I'm not being president. I wanted to see your view on the cause of the Civil War.
I mean, I think it always comes down to the role of government. We need to have capitalism. We need to have economic freedom. We need to make sure that we do all things so that individuals have the liberties so that they can have freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom to do or be anything they want to be without government getting in the way.
Thank you. And then in the year 2023, it's astonishing to me that you answer that question without mentioning the word slavery.
What do you want me to say about slavery?
You answered my question.
Next question.
Pretty remarkable. I mean, that voter, the guy who asked the question, when she went to him and said, well, what do you think about slavery? What do you think about what caused the Civil War? He's like, well, I'm not running for president, lady.
Right.
I'm asking you because I want to know what your thoughts on it are.
Right.
And then he goes, well, it's astonishing to me. You probably can't hear it. It's astonishing to me that in 2023, you didn't even use the word slavery when talking about the causes of the Civil War.
And it is.
Yeah, without a doubt. And listen, I want to read just like 2 paragraphs from I did this on a video yesterday as well, but from the Confederate States of America, the Mississippi Secession, this is in 1861, a declaration of the immediate causes which induce and justify the secession of the state of Mississippi from the federal union. And in it, they talk about the hostility of the federal government, the hostility of the United States against the Confederate States. And that's what it is in this context. That hostility, has grown until it denies the right of property and slaves and refuses protection to that right on the high seas, in the territories, and wherever the government of the United States has jurisdiction. It refuses the admission of new slave states into the Union and seeks to extinguish it by confining it within the present limits, denying the power of expansion. So they didn't just want to maintain, they wanted to expand the establishment of slavery. Here we go. This is also why they left, why the Civil War took place. The federal government's hostility toward the Confederate States advocates Negro equality socially and politically and promotes insurrection and incendiarism in our midst. This is why the Civil War was fought. This is why they seceded, because the federal government wanted to offer black people political and social equality. The Civil War, bar none, no argument, you're stupid if you fucking try to argue against it, was about white supremacy. That's it, period. And Nikki Haley is smart enough to know that that is the case. She grew up in the South. She was the governor of South Carolina for years. She knows what the cause of the Civil War was.
She does know, but she's making a political calculation that it's not popular to say for some reason.
Yeah.
And this isn't new with Nikki Haley. I mean, the reason that this questioner got up and asked her this question, likely, is because she's been asked this question over the years, and she has consistently failed to give what is the accurate response, which is to say that it was about slavery. And we're going to go out of order here in what I thought would be the order, just to go over this clip. But Nikki Haley, I believe when she was running for governor in South Carolina in 2010, responded to a question about, again, what caused the Civil War.
What's your belief about the reason the Civil War was fought?
I mean, again, I think that as we look in government, as we watch government, you have different sides. And I think that you see passions on different sides. And I don't think anyone does anything out of hate. I think what they do is they do things out of tradition and out of beliefs of what they believe is right. I think you had one side of the Civil War that was fighting for tradition, and I think you had another side of the Civil War that was fighting for change. You know, at the end of the day, what I think we need to remember is that, you know, everyone is supposed to have their rights. Everyone's supposed to be free. Everyone's supposed to have the same freedoms as anyone else. So, you know, I think it was tradition versus change is the way I see it.
Tradition versus change on what?
On individual rights and liberty of people.
What a coward. Great
Oh my
poignant
God.
follow-up there, though. Tradition and change about what? What was the tradition they were trying to uphold, Nikki Haley?
Right.
What? What could it be?
What was the change that they opposed?
Just nobody knows. I guess we'll never know. We'll just move on into modernity, having little to no understanding about which tradition they were trying to uphold so ardently that they would fight a war, the bloodiest war with the most casualties that the United States has ever been involved in. Over tradition and change, y'all.
Well, you know that Nikki Haley has to be absolutely bummed that this is happening to her because she was rising. She was rising in the polls.
Yeah, she was.
She was second. She got Chris Sununo's endorsement. Very exciting. And now what's happening is every single candidate is coming out and they're highlighting how she refuses to be direct, how she refuses to answer a question. Chris Christie releases an opening here. He's coming out. He was asked directly, in fact, this morning on CNN by one of the anchors if he feels like this is his moment to really get some attention. Chris Christie, the king of always pressuring everyone to answer questions directly, did not answer that question because, of course, he feels excited about this. This is his moment to finally start getting attention and knock Haley down a little bit.
Well, it's his moment to go from like 1.9% in the polls to maybe 6% in the polls.
Very exciting stuff. And so what's happening now is, you know, this is another strange thing. So they're going to these events, they're standing in these rooms, they're taking all these questions, and I don't know who wants to do this. Honestly, I feel very strongly that I don't understand a person who wants to do this job because you're standing in this room and you have to be all things to all people. And that's impossible to do, but somehow they're trying to make it work. And the way that you have to make it work is by being a liar. And then you get recorded being inconsistent and being a liar, and then you somehow have to dance around the fact that everyone now knows you're a liar. And so here's what's happening to Nikki Haley is she's getting asked direct questions and refusing to give direct answers. And another thing that people are doing now is they're saying, here's a chance to redeem yourself. Answer this question in a direct way. And so she was asked whether she would refuse to be Donald Trump's vice president.
Is it a chance to redeem yourself after last night's slavery thing? Would you be able to say categorically that you will not accept being Trump's vice president?
I could say to you what you want to hear, and you could go check that box and go do whatever. But I'm going to continue to tell you my truth, and the truth that I have always told the truth, even when I was in the administration. President Trump and I worked well together. Why? Because I told him the truth. Now, if you want to talk about vice president, I will tell you this now. I've said it before. I don't play for second. I've never played for second. I'm not going to start now.
That's her truth that doesn't involve an actual answer to the question. Not playing for second isn't an answer of whether or not you would accept a nomination to be vice president of the United States, Nikki Haley, and you know it. And you know it.
And Vivek did the same thing this week, too, when he was asked if he would accept a position in the Trump administration, because he's getting ready to fail out of the race.
No. You didn't hear. He's going to win the Iowa caucuses.
Oh, cool.
No, he predicted it.
Yeah, I'm sure. And
that guy is a dipshit.
he said he's not a plan B person. It's like, how do they find all these different phrases to avoid answering the question? It really is impressive.
Well, you just wait. It'll be Ron DeSantis saying, second place is only the first loser, y'all.
So I want you to remember that line that Nikki Haley said about she's always been honest with Donald Trump, because we're going to get to that in a second. But here's Nikki Haley again being asked about Donald Trump and whether she would pardon him.
I would pardon Trump if he is found guilty. A leader needs to think about what's in the best interest of the country. What's in the best interest of the country is not to have an 80-year-old man sitting in jail that continues to divide our country. What's in the best interest of the country would be to pardon him so that we can move on as a country and no longer talk about him.
It's not in the best interest of the country to have an 80-year-old man sitting in prison. How many old men are in prison? Is she going to let them all out because they're old? It doesn't even make any sense.
Yeah, I mean, of course, these are the people that like want to lock Joe Biden up as well. He's an 80-year-old man, and they're going after him. Not Nikki Haley specifically, but...
Are you saying that the Republican Party is not the party of law and order, Brittany? How dare you?
Apparently not. If they're like, you know what? The consequences for your actions are waived based on age. She wants everyone over a certain age to have a cognitive test, but then they get a get out of jail free card as well.
The Republican version of the statue, Lady Justice, has the blindfold kind of peek, just a little peek.
So you remember Nikki Haley saying that she's super honest with Donald Trump all the time. Even when she worked for him, she's always told him the truth.
Oh, yeah.
Well, let's do a flashback to when I think she was with Marco Rubio on the stage during this moment. This was in February 29th of 2016. So this was before Donald Trump was elected as president.
Right. Either just after or right before the Republican primaries of that year.
And let's hear what Nikki Haley from the past said about Donald Trump.
Donald Trump is everything I taught my children not to do in kindergarten. I taught my two little ones, you don't lie and make things up. A man who has filed for bankruptcy 4 times. A man that chooses not to disavow the KKK. That is not a part of our party. That's not who we want as president. We will not allow that in our country.
She sounds like a radical Democrat, doesn't she?
We will not allow that in our country until he makes me the UN ambassador, y'all. They're just spineless. They are cowards. They are weaklings.
Yeah, and I mean, come on. She's like Chris Christie says, and Chris Christie he's not some paragon of honesty. He's also playing a role. He's carved out a space for himself to be the only one that is critical of Trump, so he's running with it. Who knows what role he would be playing if there was someone else who was playing his part. But he's able to come out and say, you are not criticizing Donald Trump. I am criticizing Donald Trump. And that's true. That's true. All of these people refuse to be critical of Donald Trump to the point where Nikki Haley is willing to, again, work for Donald Trump, the person that she knows is a liar, she doesn't want her children to be like, and has filed for bankruptcy 4 times.
Yeah.
So she knows this to be true. Donald Trump has always been the same person. We say this constantly. Everyone knew who he was in 2016. It's just that they weren't willing to be honest about it. And certain people, Nikki Haley, are still not willing to be honest about it.
Ugh, so stupid. We would invite your participation in this conversation, 657-464-7609. Of course, as always, you can email a voice memo or regular old-fashioned email to idoubt@dollemore.com. Moving on.